How are we looking? His head's still okay? Today we're going to talk about rowing. So again, the big six, deadlift, squat, that's push-pull with your legs, bench, row, and then overhead press and a pull down. That's the big six compound movements. Work your whole entire body. You're not just isolating one muscle. You're preventing injuries if you're doing these correctly. So today let's talk about the row. I've got with me Tyler Kleinhuizen, strongman competitor, incredible power lifter. He's going to show us how to do the row properly, and we're going to just use the barbell like we always do with pretty much everything here. So you can use those machines where you sit down and you row with various handlebars. That's perfectly fine. It allows some different stabilizer muscles to be activated. But the simplest way to do it is just to use a bar, and it's effectively like the deadlift when you start. And so you want to go back and watch the deadlift video because similar principles you're going to want to employ. So let's watch Tyler do the row. So again, with rowing, similar to the deadlift, Tyler, I mean, we're keeping our back straight, we're not hunching over, we're not letting our shoulders fall out of joint, I mean, all the usual stuff, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the important thing, as I've mentioned in a couple of the other videos, if you watch those, but basically we want to make sure that our pelvis and our spine line up with each other. So where someone should feel the tension of supporting the weight is in their hamstrings and glutes, rather than any pressure in their low back. If they break that angle, then that's where they're going to feel it. So essentially it's crucial that we have that feeling of keeping the pelvis and spine in line. And then basically you're just doing an upside down bench press.
And are you pulling the bar along the angle of your legs, or are you pulling it straight up from the ground?
Sure. So once you're set up, I always set up just in front of my kneecaps, and I'm aiming for my belly button, and I'm pressing back down. So every single rep, if you're aiming toward the belly button, one consistent spot, you can have the same rep because consistency is going to be key.
Good. It's real simple. Balance out your bench press. Don't just bench. A lot of people are only benching. And again, with the big six movements, you've got to have that balance. You got to push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, and this is the pull. And I think, again, you can use the chair, you can sit down in something, but the tendency for people when they're sitting in those cable pulling machines is they're letting their shoulders drop way outside of the joint and making their shoulders vulnerable. I mean, that's what I see. That's the biggest mistake. But other than that, and I guess you do see the rounding back, the back rounding. Mm-hmm. But other than those two things, it's pretty straightforward and simple. Not too many mistakes on the row. Yeah,
as long as you control the position of your shoulder blades. So basically, your shoulder blades should be flat to your back, and your back and hips should be flat in line with each other. And then you can do it right.
So when we talk about pelvic tilt, if you think of a bucket, is usually the easiest way for people to visually think about it. And your pelvis, if it's a bucket, you don't want it tipping forward. If you're just standing here, you don't want your pelvis tipping forward and dumping all the water out of the bucket. You also don't want it tipping back, but most people today, because we're sitting all the time, those hip flexor muscles, the muscles tying your legs into your pelvis, they tend to tighten up and get real short and pull forward on your pelvis, so your whole pelvis gets tilted forward. So maybe even for people these days, which pretty much everybody's sitting too often, it might help to pull your pelvis up. You can do that by tightening your glutes, tightening your butt, and just level that pelvis and then go into your motion.
Yeah, another analogy that I use with people is pretend you've got a hula hoop going around your waist. And that hula hoop should tip the same amount as your chest tips down. So as long as that tips together, you're fine. If that tips separately, you're in trouble.
Thanks.